Many people spend as much as 50% of their workday in meetings, and yet research shows that more than half of those meetings are a complete waste of time, which is hardly the impression that you want to give your coworkers if you're the one that's organizing the meeting. The good news is that there is something that you can do to make your meeting a success, and it all begins with a solid meeting agenda. A well-written agenda creates clear expectations, it helps teammates prepare, keeps everyone on the same page, and allocates time wisely. In this video, we'll share 7 expert tips on how you can create a great meeting agenda.
Hey, and welcome to the official Teamly YouTube channel. If you enjoy our content, please click the like and subscribe button below. Now let's get straight to the video.
So let's get right to it. Our first tip is to state the objective of the meeting in the agenda itself. While this may seem painfully obvious, you've probably had the misfortune of sitting through meetings that seem to be all over the place, and worse, by the end of them there was little clarity. One way to avoid that scenario is by adding a sentence to your agenda that clearly states the purpose of the meeting. This is important for a lot of reasons. For one thing, an objective can help you clarify whether you actually need a meeting. For instance, if the goal of your meeting is to merely share information, you could always send documents to your colleagues to review instead, to have them respond with a confirmation that they've read the email. Another reason it's a good idea to create an objective for your meeting is because once you do, you'll find it's easier to determine the topics you'll want to include for your meeting, and which ones should be shelved for another time. Finally, by stating the objective of the meeting with your agenda, you're going to find it easier to lead to a successful meeting. For example, there's usually at least one attendee in every meeting who tries to hijack the proceedings by going off on unrelated tangents. Should that occur in your meeting, you can always get things back on track by reminding everyone of the meeting's objective. Okay, moving on. Our second tip is to seek input from others. About a week before your meeting, you'll want to contact your attendees to see if there are any topics that they'd like to include on the agenda or if they have any questions. Once you've reviewed their feedback, you can review their suggestions and ultimately decide which ones to include in your meeting. By asking for input in advance, you're far more likely to keep your attendees interested and engaged during your meeting since they had direct input in the agenda. Our third meeting tip is to make sure that every talking point has an owner. Again, this will keep people more engaged since meeting participation is likely to slack off if you're the only one doing the talking. Plus, your team members probably have more direct knowledge about some topics than you do, so it just makes good sense for them to handle those talking points. However, an important caveat here is don't spring these responsibilities on people during the meeting. Instead, make sure your colleagues know in advance that they're assigned talking points so that they can prepare what they're going to say. Moving on, our fourth meeting agenda is to schedule your most important topics first. As you're already well aware, the longer a meeting goes, the more likely people are to zone out, start daydreaming, reach for their phones. So for the most productive meeting, you'll want to schedule critical discussions early on. Our fifth tip is to identify the purpose of each topic on your agenda. Is it to share information, have a discussion, or reach a decision on something? For the most effective meetings, you'll want to make sure that your agenda lists the goals of each talking point, whether it's information, discussion, or decision. This makes it clear to participants what type of feedback you're looking for so your meeting stays on track. Our sixth meeting tip is to allocate a realistic amount of time for each topic. Typically, most people don't leave enough, and while it can be tricky to figure out how much time to allocate, we've got some helpful guidelines. For instance, if you're discussing a topic to reach a decision or problem solve, you'll want to allot more time than you would for a status update or a brainstorming session. Likewise, if the meeting has 10 or more attendees, you can expect the discussion to run long. The same holds true if you're talking about a complex topic, such as a technical challenge. In either case, you'll want to schedule more time for the discussion. Our seventh meeting tip is to share your meeting agenda at least 24 hours in advance with attendees. And if there are documents that participants need to review before the meeting, you'll want to attach those to the agenda as well. Sharing the agenda beforehand lets team members know what to expect so they can prepare for the meeting. All right, we've reached the end of our tips. Armed with this information, you can now go forth with confidence knowing that you're prepared for meeting success. Thanks for watching, and if you want more tips or business advice, visit our blog at teamly.com.